Ladies and gents, welcome back. Away days episode once again, the midweek episode, and we've had a casualty. Nathan is back, but he's not well at the moment. He's sick, so one more week of just my voice. I promise this one won't be as long as last time around. But what a weekend of football action. Remontadas deluxe, as you can say. 8-goal classics in the Bundesliga, and the title race shakes up in the Serie A. Obviously, Premier League at the moment has become one of the most boring leagues, but La Liga heating up, especially Serie A. And I tell you what, the Bundesliga mid-table group, well, they're just scrapping it out for those final European positions. So entertainment everywhere in European football right now. Let's start straight away with La Liga and the late drama. The top two in particular, midweek football action will continue. So as this goes out, it might be a little bit all over the place in terms of the time difference. But we start with Real Madrid, and once again, off the back of what has been a disappointing month, they continue to fight on a multiple fronts. Obviously, Copa del Rey against Barcelona on the weekend, still in the title race against Barcelona, and now we're slipping away if it wasn't for Federico Valverde's late belter in this game versus Athletic Club. It was a really slow start to the game in this one here. No real chances in the first half an hour. Vini took the game on, took on a long-range effort around the half-hour mark, but outside of that, nothing really to speak of in this game here. Symbolic, I guess, of Athletic Club resting a few players off the back of a Europa League tie on Thursday, and a case of maybe a bit of a Champions League hangover for Real Madrid. Who've had a real tough time of things in recent times. Later on, however, in the first half, Valverde had a flick header, we'll say, about Unai Simon, but it's the second half when Real Madrid truly came alive. Rodrigo putting an effort close 2 minutes past the half-time mark, as they looked a little bit more aggressive going forward, committing numbers forward, wing-backs, full-backs, all committing up the pitch, and just overwhelming Athletic Club in terms of the numbers in the final third. Camavinga probably had the best chance of the game to that point. In the 49th minute, Vinicius Jr. with a back heel in his own half, freed up Camavinga for a one-on-one run against Unai Simon, but he ended up chipping that effort over and onto the bar. Unai Simon, later in the game, a few chances. Unai Gomez went forward in the 59th minute. However, massive save by Thibaut Courtois to keep that game at 0-0. And at that point in time, probably was the biggest moment of the game. Bilbao are bringing players off the bench. The Williams combination looking more dangerous. Bilbao looking more dangerous in transition as Real Madrid were committing numbers forward because they had to win this game. We drifted even further away from the league-leading Barcelona, and we'll get into their game just after this one here, but they won that game late as well, and it would a real momentum swing in Barcelona's favour if Real Madrid had failed to pick up all the points in this one here. Bellingham put a header close. Unai Simon once again saving. Valverde continued to take the game on. Long shots are plenty after the hour mark. His shot came very, very close in the 64th minute, hitting the side netting. As once again, Real Madrid were sending up the likes of Lucas Vazquez, Tchouameni and Camavinga were the deepest line players at times. Rudiger became a second centre forward in there as well. Jude Bellingham, to that point in time, had a real tough game. Overall, he did have a tough game, but toe poked his effort late on in the game over the crossbar. But then the magical moment would come again. Balls repeatedly into the box. A clearance fell out to Federico Valverde in the 93rd minute. Superb juggled to himself and the volley to find the far corner. Enter the drama at the Bernabeu yet again, this time in favour of Real Madrid. A 93rd minute winner securing them the 1-0 victory in this game here. They absolutely dominated it. Probably one of their best performances we've seen from Real Madrid in the last month at least, even in 2025. They were dynamic. They committed numbers forward. They found that balance between overt aggression and also defensive coverage. We saw they lost to Valencia a few weeks ago because they made too many numbers forward, but not too many chances for Bilbao in transition. Unai Gomez had a chance. One of the Williams brothers had a chance as well, but outside of that, Bilbao had nothing really to speak of. They struggled to get into the game with a lot of rotations, and they struggled to stay in the game as Real Madrid grew in confidence. And a good sign this game here was the fluidity in the final third yet again. Without Kylian Mbappe there, things open up. Jude Bellingham was in the box at times. Antonio Rudiger was in the box at times. Rodrigo and Vinicius looked fantastic. Endrick came on the pitch. Not his strongest game, but most importantly, the danger from the bench was there as well. They continued to be dangerous. They continued to be ruthless. And eventually, They knocked on the door, and eventually that door fell down with Valverde scoring a fantastic volley. But yet again, bailed out by Federico Valverde. We've said that a lot of times. I think it's our 5 screamers he scored from outside the box or with a volley this season. This one probably the most important to keep their season alive. We know Ancelotti looks to be out the door. That's another whole conversation itself, but this was a victory that they needed to have. Coming into this game here, I'll get into Barcelona games after this one here, but they made a dramatic comeback victory. They pounced when they needed to. Real Madrid looked like they were just running out of time yet again, and they weren't able to pounce. And a Madrid team of last season probably wins that game within the opening 60 minutes and kills the game off 3-0. Game's done. But with how their confidence is at a low at the moment, with off the Champions League midweek and the disappointment of the whole remontada there, it was just a real low, flat, almost angry feeling from the Bernabeu crowd, and they were finally rewarded. And I think it takes a bit of pressure off this side now going into that Copa del Rey game and that final versus Barcelona on the weekend, because if they had lost or drawn this game versus Athletic Club, really you're only battling on one front, which was a Copa del Rey final. It's a lot about this team that they only can go away with one trophy this season. At least they're still competing for 2. They could still get 2. I feel like, though, against a Barcelona side that had their number this season, to face them as the only opportunity to win a trophy in the Copa del Rey final, a lot of pressure on the side. I'd imagine they'd crumble under that, a lot of pressure, and then this season becomes an absolute failure. The Galacticos, the second coming of the Galacticos, haven't really delivered. But once again, we saw without Mbappe there, Rodrigo and Vinny looked much better as a more dynamic front line. Jude Bellingham looked like a more dangerous threat as well. So it's been the worry. It's been my disappointment this side this season that we're having the best of Vinicius Jr. Throughout the year. I've called for Mbappe being the problem in terms of taking away from Vinicius Jr. By no means has his performance has been the problem. He has been fantastic this season. We'll probably go on and beat the record for most goals in a debut season wearing the white jersey of Real Madrid. But I just think with the amount of presence and the way he clogs up a lot of space in the final third, we don't get to see the best of Rodrigo. We don't get to see the best of Vinicius. We don't get to see Arda Güler off the bench. We don't get to see Jude Bellingham in that false 9 spot. Thibaut Courtois said it post the Arsenal game, and I don't think it's ridiculous. People laughed at him, but they were missing a Hoslu in that game versus Arsenal, whipping balls into the box, looking for the big centre forward. I touched on it at length last week on the podcast. They're missing a leader. They're missing someone who can hold accountability. I think by having 3 of those attackers up top, none of which really defend, you lose that accountability, you lose that threat, you lose that fluidity in the final third as well. They've become a team that is so left-hand orientated, that's forcing so many players in up top. That dynamism in the final third where Rodrigo might drift out left, Vinny might duck inside, Bellingham drops back into the number 10, Bellingham might push onto the number 9, Rodrigo stays out wide left, Vinicius comes to left-sided forward. They lose that sort of dynamism in the final third. They got that back on the weekend. That's why I think it was one of their best performances in 2025. Yes, by no means their most clinical. Yes, by no means their most precise in the final third. But there was that real feeling of inevitability once again with Real Madrid. And we can't say that for a lot of them this season. Quick, some of the key players. Valverde, an 8.8 match rating, a goal, 3 clearances, 100% aerial duel win success rate, 93 touches, 93% pass accuracy, 5 of the 7 accurate long balls. He played right back, right wing back, central midfield, and ended the game almost as a right winger in this game here. Once again, playing every single position. Someone has to help this man out. I'd argue he probably has been their player of the season with his availability, his consistency, his match winners, his importance of goals, and most importantly, the accountability. I think that's a key word of Real Madrid's season, accountability. Who's going to take this accountability on next season? Dani Carvajal coming back from an injury, Carlo Ancelotti looking on the way out. There's going to be a change of system. There's going to be a change of personnel, you'd think. Who is going to grab this accountability next season and guide Real Madrid back to a Champions League final, back to a La Liga title? I'm not ruling them out yet. They're in touching distance versus Barcelona, but to catch this Barcelona side, they're going to have to beat that Barcelona side in the capital in that game there versus Barcelona. So, look, massive game for them in the Copa del Rey final and then playing the El Clasico come season's end. You win both those games, you have an opportunity for 2 trophies, which is ridiculous for Real considering how poor their season has been. But it just goes to show what Real Madrid is all about. And the pressure that's fallen onto these players from the fans, I think, is warranted. They expect the best, they want the best, and that is what you you get when you pull on that Real Madrid jersey. There was so much hyped about the remontada midweek versus Arsenal. I sort of believed it. I almost expected it versus an Arsenal side that's so underwhelming in big games. But it was Real Madrid who were underwhelming. And I think defensively this season, they conceded only one more goal more than Barcelona. So defensively hasn't really been the problem. Yes, there's been some holes and some lack of tracking back. That's to be expected. But the goals hasn't really come. And it's because there's the imbalance on the side. There's too many players up there wanting to do a bit of them. It's not a team. I think everyone says it. They're a bunch of individuals that wait for magical moments. It was a magical moment for Valverde to bail them out in this game here, to keep them in this title race, to keep them alive this season. 4 wins in the last 5 games in the league is a positive sight. 73% possession, but only the 1.51 XG, only the 3 big chances created. It's taking individual moments of brilliance to bail them out. And I think it leads me to my final point here. Ancelotti on the way out. Xabi Alonso likely to take the role. We thought it'd be a handover at the end of the season. It's going to be a sacking and a rejoining of Xabi Alonso. But he's a system manager. He expects organisation. There is a commitment to attack, but there's also that ability to be defensively sound. What Leverkusen did well last season to go undefeated in the Bundesliga, to go and be competing on all 3 fronts, was a commitment of the holding midfielder to protect that back 3. It truly was a back 3. Grimaldo and Jeremy Frimpong were absolutely out-and-out wingers in that system there to allow a Teller, Amin Adli, a Boniface, a Patrick Schick to commit to be the double up top, to commit to be the 2 strikers up top. There's one creative midfielder. There's one midfielder which the ball goes through in Florian Wirtz. I would not be surprised if he ends up there this season, but where does that leave Jude Bellingham? Where does that leave other players? It means like a Dani Ceballos will have to sit as the 6. He has to be the holding midfielder, and I still think a Joshua Kimmich would fit perfectly in this team. And now that Xabi Alonso is coming across, boy, do they need a proper number 6. Robert Andrich, for me, was the linchpin. He was the cog that made Leverkusen turn last season. He's been in and out of the side, playing centre-half, playing as a double pivot with Granit Xhaka, not being that out-and-out holding 6 that protects that back line, and I think that's hurt them this season. Real Madrid are desperately going to need a 6 next year. Is it going to be Valverde? Is it going to be Dani Ceballos? Can they convert a player like David Alaba into be a 6? Because they're going to need a 6 if they want to play that Alonso system. It's going to be great to see Trent Alexander-Arnold in a back 5, because that's going to allow him to flourish and attack from right wing back position, potentially into midfield as well, supporting in there. As such, I think, once again, it's going to be Federico Valverde who's going to hold this side together. Xhaka and Andrich. Can it be a Alaba and Valverde combination? Or will it be a very aggressive attacking Valverde and Jude Bellingham combination? But with the goals and importance that Valverde holds in this side, you see from this game here, I just wonder if they need to support him with the defensively minded midfielder alongside him. Then you get Florian Wirtz, or potentially you put Jude Bellingham back at the 10 there and you don't sign anyone up there. And then you go with a front line of Vinicius and Mbappe. Boy, it's dangerous. But you just have 2 of them up top. What happens to Rodrigo? What happens to Andrich? What happens to Arda Güler? Arda Güler would be fantastic in the number 10 in this system here under Xabi Alonso. But a lot for Alonso to worry about come next summer, because you're going to Club World Cup as well. Limited time to make some transfers, limited time to get this team organised. And a lot of organisation has to happen. But to be honest, though, if you look back at it, Ancelotti's done a fantastic job. Sometimes relying on these moments of brilliance from individual players, but that's just the side Real Madrid have been this season. It's unfortunate it hasn't clicked together. I love Ancelotti as a manager. Does he have one more hurrah in him at another side? Does a Premier League or a Bundesliga side potentially take a punt at him? I tell you what, Dortmund are turning it around in recent weeks, but why not go after Ancelotti to try and steady the ship? Or do we go for the ultimate rotation with Ancelotti going to Leverkusen, Xabi Alonso going to Real Madrid, potentially an opportunity as well? Or does he end up at a Juventus if they want to get rid of Igor Tudor and go in the Ancelotti direction, trying to convert on that Juventus squad? A lot of questions to be asked in the manager market this summer yet again. That was a much win, though, for Real Madrid because of the Barcelona remontada. There was a lot of talk about the Real Madrid comeback in the Champions League. It was their arch nemesis that made the comeback on the weekend versus a very dangerous Celta Vigo side with Borja Iglesias in fantastic form on the weekend. Fantastic start, however, from Barcelona. Lewandowski having a chance created for him in the second minute, and Ferran Torres scoring in the 12th minute. A fantastic superb piece of individual play, driving into the space and taking a shot on to find the bottom corner in the 12th minute. However, Borja Iglesias would equalise in the 15th minute, tapping home from an empty net, going from one end to another. Marcos Alonso, the former Barcelona player, fantastic ball to open up the space for Duran on the flank. Duran's ball into the box. Szczesny committed himself, didn't get to the cross to intercept it. Borja Iglesias finding the back of the net to make it 1-1. Another key chance for Iglesias down the right-hand side. Another ball to the centre forward. However, Szczesny did enough to shut down the centre forward as he became crowded out for his chance on goal. Another massive chance on the break as Moriba got away from the challenge, took his shot on, but parried into the hands of Lozada, whose effort was also saved by Szczesny. A big double save in the 43rd minute to keep the game at 1-1, just prior to half-time there. However, after half-time was the big moment. Borja Iglesias, once again, from a direct long ball coming from his own half and their own box. He ran in behind Frankie de Jong, misreading the aerial ball, missing that aerial contest, allowing Iglesias in behind, and he absolutely drilled that ball into the opposite corner to make it 2-1 in the 52nd minute. And the hat-trick was completed just after the hour mark. A long ball for Celta Vigo reaches Borja at the centre circle, received the ball in his own half. Once again, Hansi Flick on the touchline, furious that no Barcelona defender was touch tight to the centre forward. He then ran on goal, sent Chelsea the wrong way and made it 3-1 just after the hour mark. A lot of worried faces. Then in comes the cavalry. Lamine Yamal, Dani Olmo, and into an instant response in the 64th minute. Rafinha slipping the ball in behind to find Dani Olmo. He made it 3-2. Lamine Yamal then, again another player off the bench, assisted Rafinha in the 68th minute, so a 6-minute turnaround to level it up once again. Rafinha at the back post, a really superb header, had to really work the neck muscles to get in behind that ball and head that ball on target to score in the box. And then their magic moment would come late in the game. Gavi had a chance in the 84th minute, but it would be right at the end of the game, the 8th minute of stoppages, after a VAR check. Lago was deemed to bundle over Dani Olmo, upstep Rafinha with Lewandowski on the bench. Massive moment for the skipper. Found the back of the net, found the top corner, smashing the ball past Guaita to complete a fantastic turnaround. 3-1 down, 4-3 up with one of the last kicks of the game. Barcelona, this is their year. They're making these type of results. A fantastic comeback. You saw it meant to Hansi Flick at full time, running straight on the pitch to hug his skipper and Rafinha. That combination there has been dynamic all season. The turnaround from Rafinha, Ballon d'Or favourite, Pedri alongside him as well, another Ballon d'Or favourite that people have been saying in recent weeks. Those two are fantastic in this game here. But once again, it is the ability for Barcelona to continue to keep their foot on the accelerator. They're competing on multiple fronts. It could be a quadruple this season in the Champions League, leading La Liga and not slipping up where they would last season, not making those careless mistakes hurt them this season, covering up for the leaders leading. Lamine Yamal coming off the bench and looking like a 40, 30-year-old that can make an impact instantly. Dani Olmo off the bench to make an instant impact after coming back from injury yet again. He's the ultimate return from injury player. Continues to find the back then in all these return games. Key players in this one, it was probably the big three. Rafinha, Pedri and Dani Olmo in this one here. Rafinha had the perfect 10 match rating, 2 goals, 1 assist, 4 to 6 dribbles completed, 81 touches, 5 key passes in this game here, creating for Ferran, creating for Lewandowski, creating for Dani Olmo. 8 out of 11 ground duels won. He was everywhere. He had the magical moment. He pounced on the big moment. And that's just the man that he is this season. You can't really stop this guy at the moment. The confidence, the belief, the consistency, unmatched. And that's why he's Ballon d'Or favourite so far. Pedri is also into the discussion with a 7.9 match rating, 136 touches of the football, 91% pass accuracy, 3 to 5 successful dribbles, 11 to 15 ground duels won, and 5 tackles in there as well. In a game where they were poor in transition, he was probably the best in terms of covering off, protecting that back line, protecting Pau Kubasi and Inigo Martinez. And in all honesty, the best in terms of progressing the football midfield. A lot of low blocks, which Barcelona are presented in many games. A lot of big problems to solve in midfield, and often it's Pedri to go and solve them, doing the grunt work in this game here as well with those challenges. And for me, the difference what he was the ability to transition the ball from that central area into the final third quite quickly. When in that turnaround, Barcelona moved the ball much quicker than they were in the first half. They would progress through the lines much easier, and that allowed Olmo, Rafinha, Lamine Yamal easier opportunities against less defensive pressure, and that's due to what he did in midfield alongside actually Frankie de Jong as well, who had a fantastic game also. And then Dani Olmo, the 7.6 match rating, a goal in his 31 minutes, 19 touches. He did what he had to do in that limited minutes. He was heavily involved. He was bundled over for that eventual penalty as well. And I think for Dani Olmo, and I keep saying this season, I didn't expect him to fit so well amongst great players around him. We saw what he did at RB Leipzig as almost a complementary option to Xavi Simons, but then in the Euros, coming off the bench and being the main man, making things tick from the start in that starting lineup. And for me, it's his presence and positioning. I almost got the two P's in this instance here. His presence in and around the box is felt. He's always in those little pockets. He always picks the ball up off a 50-50. He can win those challenges up the pitch. And then the positioning as well, which evolves into that presence as well. It just feels like in and around the box, you feel him. You know that he's going to make a chance. He's going to make an opportunity. He's in the box of crosses. He's in the edge of the area for those late runs onto the box. I feel like if you're a Lamine Yamal, if you're a Rafinha, or if you're playing in the wide spaces, you know he's going to be there. And Firmino for me is one of my favourite players, but he doesn't have that same positioning presence, which Dani Olmo does, which when you pull the ball back to the D, or the ball ends up at the D for Barcelona, there's going to be one man, that's Dani Olmo. He's going to know where the ball's going to land. He knows the time to get there, and he'll often find the back of the net. And even when he got brought down the box, it was that positioning and that sense that he has in the box that allowed him that position to be brought down to allow the penalty from Rafinha. So I think he had a fantastic game here. They won obviously overnight when making this podcast, and that's 7 points clear of Real, obviously playing that extra game. But look at the dominance, 72% possession, 2.86 XG, 18 shots, requiring 5 saves. However, from the keeper versus Celta Vigo, who put together, despite, for me, Barcelona deserving the result, a very respectable performance, 28% possession, 2.13 XG. So they created a fair chunk of XG with the 5 big chances created, 11 shots, 2 saves from their keeper. So, look, valiant from Celta Vigo, but the class showed through. The resilience, the belief, I think, in this game here, the big teaching point, the learning point from this game here is Barcelona have that grit, they have that determination, and that's become due to what Hansi Flick's brought to this side, work rate, belief, and instilled that sense of we can go and win any game at any time, playing any style of football. I think that's the difference in Real Madrid this season and Barcelona. Last season, it was roles reversed. It was requiring individual brilliance from Lamine Yamal to bail the side out. It was requiring Pedro when he's back from injury to do his thing. And outside of that, not much else. Lewandowski was poor. Rafinha wasn't what he was this season. It was a flat Barcelona side. Koundé not at his best. This year, it's roles reversed. Barcelona requiring, Real Madrid requiring individual pieces of brilliance from Mbappe, from Jude Bellingham, from Federico Valverde, and everyone else isn't pulling their weight. But this season, my God, the front line for Barcelona. Ferran Torres starts this game in place of Lamine Yamal, makes an impact. Dani Olmo and Lamine Yamal come off the bench to instantly both score and assist. It's that sort of difference which Barcelona have this season, the belief, the confidence, the willingness to press, to keep the higher line, and it's all worked for them this season. It's a really taxing system. We said it for match day 1. Nathan brought up Hansi Flick sides, you have to be fit, you have to be committed, you have to stay healthy, because it's so much required in these players to work with and without the football, to keep the energy, to keep the belief. And what this Barcelona side has done it very well. They've managed injuries well. They've managed that midfield area perfectly. And I think what this side has done, Castro obviously missing this latter half of the season, but they've always come in and filled a role. Pedri playing a little bit more defensively orientated since Castro drops out. Frankie de Jong jumps in the midfield and does a very, very complete job defending, driving the ball forward. And for me, Ferran Torres is one of the best substitutes of the year. Comes off the bench and always impacts games. Always dynamic, but's happy to play, the supporting act to Lamine Yamal, Lewandowski and Rafinha. And I think the big difference for me, and could be just the difference in the reason why Barcelona win 4-3 trophies this season, is Rafinha. Simply put, he is the man at the moment. 50-plus goal contributions, knows how to fly in the back of the net right now, takes on big moments and lifts and rises and wants the big moments. There was a lot of players in that pitch at Barcelona that could have taken that penalty, but the skipper steps up, he converts it. The header as well. I didn't ever think, the day that Rafinha's scoring headers, that ball into the box was good from Lamine Yamal, but by no means was an easy header. It was behind Rafinha, using the neck muscles, gets him behind the ball, gets power and action in that header to find the back of the net. Pressing high up the pitch, making runs in behind, being clinical with his passing as well as pass succession rate was massive in this game here. He made 5 key passes. He won those ground duels. It's the work that Hunty Flick has instilled in this side, in particular Rafinha. I think that's going to be the difference this season. There is a work rate, there is a confidence that which Barcelona have that's just unstoppable right now. And that's why they're unstoppable on all fronts, scoring goals for fun and keeping clean sheets while they're doing it as well. It's just been unbelievable this season from Rafinha and company. And that's why they're probably going to win the league, to be honest with you. It's just been unbelievable this year from them. Going over to everyone's favourite club right now, which is Real Betis. They got a fantastic win to keep their Champions League hopes alive. I was wrong last week. It is now confirmed. 5 Champions League clubs from La Liga and Betis, they're keeping their hopes alive. A fantastic opening 40 minutes of them to kill the game off versus Girona. It was Johnny Cardoso who gave Betis the lead in 6 minutes, scoring from an Isco corner. Isco yet again having his fingerprints all over this game. Lead in this side, showing his quality yet again, and someone that Real Madrid could desperately deal with right now. Asprilla was gifted an early chance in the 29th minute as a rare Isco giveaway, playing out from the back. Gave an opportunity, however, that effort was put wide of the target. And then the man of the moment right now, Anthony, scoring in the 39th minute. He made it 2-0. A great pressure act, high up the pitch from Betis, winning the ball back off Girona, who looked to still play out from the back. Perraud then makes us a very good run. A fantastic cross into the area. But my God, was the cushion volley superb from Anthony to make the game 2 goals. And he was scoring there once again. His 4th goal, 8, I think it's now 9 goal contributions in his opening 17 or 16 games of the club, smashing out Betis right now and being a real game changer. And then the game was killed off by Isco in the 42nd minute. He rose to head the ball past Gazzaniga at the end of Abde's cross into the box. That made it 3-0 just before half-time. After half-time, fair few chances, but nothing really to note of. Abde got on the end of an Anthony free kick, requiring a big save from Gazzaniga. Porto came close as he got subbed on towards the hour mark, and the Tan cleared the ball off the line following the Adrian save. Anthony should have made it 4-0. However, the keeper made the save, and Abde on the follow-up was also denied by Gazzaniga as well, all set up by fantastic Pablo Fornals pass in behind to find Anthony, who also had a great game this game. Pablo Fornals playing deeper. Abde again was denied by Gazzaniga, and Girona found their consolation goal in this, through Stuani in the 85th minute, who was able to scrap the ball over the line from a corner kick. Looking at Betis, so it's all about them right now. They're keeping that push for those top 5 positions alive right now. 8 wins, 3 draws and a loss in their previous 12 games in all competitions. Anthony the star yet again, 7.8 match rating, 1 goal, 53 touches, 87% pass accuracy. Become a much more consistent passer of the football, which I've seen in his time in Spain. 2 key passes, 100% accurate long balls, 3 to 5 ground duels won. You know what you get with Anthony. It's work rate, it's intensity, it's constant running at back lines. I think what Betis has done with him well was working in a combination with Isco, and by no means am I saying they're Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka, but it's a similar sort of mold. What Betis are doing right now, which I've seen a lot, is Isco and Anthony work in the pockets together, and they allow the fullback to sit back, and then opens a lot of space up for Anthony to get his best work done. And by clearing out a lot of the space in that right-hand channel, it allows Anthony the opportunity to cut in no matter what. And because La Liga is much quicker game, but it's less physical, it allows Anthony to dictate things. And I think Flynn said on the Monday podcast, he can't be a bad player. As much as United overpaid for him, he's not a bad player. We see what he did with Ajax in the Champions League and in the Eredivisie. A league that suits him a little bit more, a less physical league like La Liga, with more passing ability from players, a quicker speed of ball movement, I think supports him. And I think it helps him a lot. And I like what they've done there at Betis, which is clear out that right-hand channel to allow him to go byline if he really needs to, cross the ball using his right foot, but most importantly, operate so he can cut inside on his left and produce goals like that. And then you saw from the goal, pressing up the pitch, but getting the ball into the area, Perraud's ball to the back post where Anthony was, he was relatively unmarked because of the lack of numbers on that right-hand channel. The lack of then defenders present to pressurise him and put him under pressure. And him working with Isco, Isco's such a 2-footed player, such a player who can operate in tight spaces, someone who can work on the give and goes. Not only does Isco benefit, like he said in the press conference, Anthony also benefits as well. because they work with each other, they work with the 1-2s, they give and goes, the half spaces, they feel the game very similarly. And I think that's helped Anthony out because he's got someone on his wavelength. He's got someone that understands where he wants to run and when he wants it. And when he wants the ball dropped back to him, when he wants it in behind. And it's just a great telepathic combination. You see they're loving it. Full time, they hug each other, they go over each other all the time. It's such a great combination. So in similar way to which Arsenal play, where the right back holds back Ben White, you're in timber, and allows then Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard to work as a double in the half space. It's very similar here with Betis. Anthony and Isco working in the half space. They are the two that drift out wide right. There's less defenders there. There's less double ups. It's a greater speed for Anthony to play out, a lesser physicality for Anthony to play out, and it just makes him flourish. That's why we've seen him be so dominant in La Liga, because I think we know Anthony's a player. We know he's a really quality individual, limited obviously by that real left-footed, preference. But if the game style and the game plan suits him a little bit more counter-attacking and they actually look to him first, it allows him to be better. I think what Anthony needs to do is almost like a basketball shot clock. You need to get the ball in quicker in the shot clock when less defenders are back set for him to be at his best. In transition, with speed, opening up far sides of the play. They switch the ball to Anthony a lot. You watch the Betis games, it's the outballs to Anthony. Great touch and then get one-on-one at your defender, get at him, go bar line, cut inside, find Isco, give and go, get him behind, shoot and score. Or like they did on the weekend, press high up the pitch, where it's so up on the left-hand side, a lot of space to the back post, cross goes to the back post, relatively unmarked, cushion left-footed finish into the back of the net. Because he's got the ability, the team needs to work around him. And what Betis are doing, they're working around him. Isco and Anthony are their players. The system operates around those two, and that's why we're seeing the best of Anthony. It's a great sign to see. Great for Betis fans. Helps United and their price tag they can put on Anthony's name. But it's good to see Anthony himself confident playing his best football. Again, you can see it. The stats are all showing up on the stat sheet. And it's the belief and the happiness you can see in his game plan. Abde as well, fantastic performance him in this game. I tell you what, the front three was superb. 8.1 match rating, an assist, 2 key passes, had the 5 shots, 3 on target. Obviously 3 of those ones saved there. A 66% dribble success rate, 8 out of 15 ground duels won. And the man of the match was Isco, 8.7 match rating, the goal, the assist, 46 touches, 3 key passes, 2 out of 4 accurate crosses. He was everywhere. And as much as I can say Anthony, the system operates around him, ultimately at the end of the day, Betis go as far as Isco can take them. When Isco's slightly off, Betis attacking football, it plummets, it falls away. But when Isco's involved, when Isco's operating, drifting out wide right, when he's making runs in behind, when he's on penalties, when he's taking set pieces, dead balls, they look like such a better side. We saw it towards the back end last season. He got injured. It stopped Betis' run in. This is a much weaker Betis side than what we're seeing this season. In this run in, he's available, he's fit. Anthony's here now as well. You've got Abde, who is a real breakout player for me, performing at his best. Pablo Fornal is in midfield alongside Lo Celso. They've got depth midfield areas. The back line for me, inconsistent. The 10 can be very, very good at times, can be very dodgy. All in all, okay. Adrian and goal, okay. But to be honest, it's their attacking football, which they rely on. And Isco's the leader of that. He's a skipper of the side. And when the ball goes to him, you see that this guy's a Real Madrid talented player. He sees those passes. He picks the passes. He makes others around him better. He said in the press conference, I'm happy to make Anthony better, but he's also making me better. And it's that speed that Anthony brings. I think that's helped Isco playing it much slower these days, a little bit older with all of those injuries. He can now just sit back a little bit on the edge of the area. He can allow Anthony to do his thing, make those later runs into the box, see the pitch, because he's not the only one who can play make now. He can sit a little bit deeper and spray passes from there. He's not so, hyper-focused on, hyper-centralised, and as such, then teams collapse onto him and it becomes very difficult for him to operate. So I think both of them are helping each other out, and you can see it. They're just flourishing at such a high level here. And you look at the league table, they're probably the form side of some of the top sides in the country. Just make sure it is. I believe they're sitting right now in 5th place, if the table wants to come up. So they are 6th, so behind Villarreal. They've played a game extra, but only 1 point behind Villarreal. So it's going to be a real tight battle there for that 5th spot and last Champions League position. Maybe it might come available. Villarreal have been super consistent this season. Athletic Club too far away 6 points behind them. But I tell you what, Villarreal drop a game, it becomes 2 or just a single point. It's going to be a real tough run into the season, both these two clubs. Fantastic clubs, and both deserve it. It's a real shame that one of these clubs will miss out because they both played fantastic football on the season. Big shout out in this game here to Gazzaniga as well. 6 saves, 100% pass accuracy, 7.6 match rating. A shame for Girona. It's been a good year for them because they go into the Champions League. Michel has done the job. But I tell you what, near the relegation zone now, haven't won in a very long time. That home dominance, that home belief, fallen off the face of the earth. I think for them, similar to Union Berlin from 2 years ago, yes, you get the Champions League, you lose a few players, but you've got to stay true to your identity. It doesn't mean bringing in players that aren't going to fit your identity because they're good players. It means finding players that are going to fit your identity. It's time you find the new Jan Kuto. It's time that you support Gutierrez. You find more talented players that support like Stuani up top. Find your new Dov Big up top. You need help for Segankov. You need Segankov fit. I think Aspria will be a real talent, but it needs time now to rebuild this side. No European football next season. They need to survive first. I think they will be able to do that because Michel is a fantastic manager, but it's a rebuilding year next year. They need to get the troops in that can support a ball-playing, high-intensity, high-line and speed system that can press, that can play with width, because right now the players just, I don't think, are good enough to play what Michel wants to put out there, and as such you can see them really struggling this year, which is a real unfortunate occurrence because a lot of the teams from last year have done actually not that bad this season. Stuttgart had their moment. They've sort of tailed off coming into the season here. We know we'll get into Bologna a little bit. They've done fantastically well this season. It's a real belief to other clubs now that these smaller clubs can still come back and compete year on year. And what we're going to touch on is Union Berlin have turned it around because they found the right manager and they're investing in the right players for the job. I think that's going to be a very similar story next season for Girona. Our one segment this week, again, only with me here. We're only one segment. Talking about 5 players who deserve a big move next season to one of those big clubs around European football. Starting with the obvious one, it's one of my worst, ones in terms of selections, is going to be Dean Huijsen. I love watching Bournemouth, love watching this man play. Was a big fan of Ilya Zarbani last season, but this guy has put him to shame. Fantastic year for him, Dean Huijsen. 26 starts, got his Spanish national team debut, and what a pass it was in that game to find Lamine Yamal. 7 Premier League clean sheets, averages of 2 interceptions, 1.3 tackles, 2.5 aerial duels, 1 per game, and the 5 accurate long balls per game. Scored 2 massive goals this season from set pieces. He's a real, litmus test for Bournemouth. When Bournemouth defend well, it's often because of Dean Huijsen. When they defend well, they play well. It's on the back of Huijsen in the back alongside Ilya Zarbani. They've built a fantastic combination, a real fire and ice type feel about it. As much as he wins a lot of battles and wins a lot of tackles, he is the Rolls Royce. He has that passing array in his game. He's a threat from set pieces. I think for him as well, as his game grows and as his game develops, more of that passing array, more of the confidence to drive the ball into dangerous spaces and commit into midfield for a very solid side that inverts players. That's his sort of final form because he's got the ability on the ball. I feel like it's there. We haven't seen it totally a lot come the second half of the season, but in the first half of the year we saw it a lot. We saw him driving to space, we saw him making those diagonal passes, we saw him opening up the game for those attacking wide players from Bournemouth. I think he's fantastic. He wins a lot of aerial duels, he's very physical for a player of his thinner stature, and only more to come from him as he grows over the years. Again, only a teenager, 21, 25-year-old, that period of time, they're growing, going to his 30s, going one of the top centre-backs in world football because he's got the IQ and he knows how to read attacking players' minds. He knows how to cover off spaces so well, and he's such a goal threat as well. So massive year from Dean Huijsen at Bournemouth, and absolutely I can see a Juventus getting him back, or potentially I can see him in a Real Madrid uniform next season, partnering up a Rudiger, partnering up an Asensio potentially as one for the future there. Fantastic size as well, really good centre-half. Going to the Bundesliga, Jonathan Burkhardt for me, what a year for him at Mainz. 16 goals, 2 assists, operates almost as your left forward in many regards, can play slightly left-hand side of that front line there, scores a goal over 118 minutes, 2.5 shots per game, or just under that, so very clinical with his opportunities on goal. For me, a symbol of the ultimate work rate striker, gets back, pressurises, puts tackles in. Again, very good on the counter-attack, finishes off chances more often than not. And I can see why some big clubs, especially in England, are looking after this guy because, again, work rate, 1, that's a massive tick. If you want to leave the Bundesliga and join one of the other leagues because of how more defensively orientated other leagues are. Very physical for his size as well. And for me, it's just the ability and the confidence in the final third to know where the back of the net is and find it more often than not. He's got that in his game. Again, Mainz have had a real fall off since February, so the goals and assists have dropped off since then. But in their great run, it was on the back of Jonathan BARCA leading the line and being clinical in the final third. So look to him to make a big move, potentially to England or potentially to a bigger club in the Bundesliga because he's a real talent up top and a lot of clubs will keep their eye on. And especially this man here, maybe not this summer, maybe next summer, but Assane Diao is one hell of a player. Made the January move across to Como to join Fabregas's side. 8 goals and an assist in his 15 Serie A appearances, 7.12 match rating. Can operate on the left-hand channel and centrally. 6'1", good size, good speed. Again, the development for him is be able to operate alongside a striker up top, with his passing, because the passing for me is subpar. His first touch getting there, but I tell you what, in terms of just finding the back of the net, we saw 2 goals from him on the weekend. He's just a natural finisher. And again, in this modern footballing world, we get in the Joshua Zertskis of the world, even I guess you can say the Burkhardts as well. You can talk about a lot of strikers in world football right now. They aren't your proper number 9s. Arsenal playing a DM at number 9 right now. A lot of teams not having the clinical number 9, the finishing number 9. This guy is that. He's the old school, just put the ball in the back of the net type number 9. Will finish chances off when you create them for him. So he's a one hell of a player. Great size for such a young kid. Got a great turn of pace. It's that connecting, I guess, link for him. Ability to find and work with other players for him up top. That's going to be, I guess, the deciding factor where he ends up as is he a central forward? Is he a working a 2-type forward? Does he work in a front 3 as a left-sided forward as well? Because he's got so many tools and potentials to grow. Do teams take a punt at him next season? I don't know. But with what we've seen from him at Como, in a high work rate, counter-pressing, and I tell you what, clinical finishing side, he's got a lot about him. So, you want to go early on him because I think he'll be worth a lot of money in 2 years' time. So it'll be interesting if one of the big boys takes a punt on him. But boys had a great season. I'm watching Como. Him and Nico Paz have really stood out as those talents for the future. Going across to La Liga, Enzo Berenguer. I love this kid. I love what he's done at Valencia this season. 7 match rating on average, 28 matches. Not your most progressive player, 0.7 key passes per game. But for me, it's the real bulldog type feel. He's giving Alexis McAllister a lot in this midfield. 87% pass accuracy, 2.5 tackles per game, 1.2 interceptions per game, 4 ball recoveries, and wins 60% of his duels in midfield. That means aerial and ground duels. Little pocket rocket in there, not afraid to take the game on, is comfortable with the ball at his feet. He wants to receive the ball on the turn, can operate back to goal, but also turn and get his team going forward. In Valencia's turnaround, where they've been a little bit more defensively oriented, a little bit more pragmatic, he's been vital for them driving that ball forward, getting it into the final third from the midfield and the defensive areas. And I feel like, again, another player that's going to increase a lot price-wise across the next year. So does a team take an early punt on him, get him early across, get him in their side and try to implement him in their system? It's a name to keep an eye out for. I think Valencia would love to keep him, but I think a lot of clubs will be sniffing around from this kid. There's not many in this type of mould, those bullies in midfield, but are comfortable in the football. That's why he just has that Alexis McAllister feel about him. A real grit grind midfielder that's small and fights like a terrier, but on the ball, classy, cool, calm and composed. Again, hasn't quite got the end product as a passing into the final third, but in and around the midfield areas and progressing the team forward, has got that roll down pat. In double pivot, but could also play alone in the 6 and do a fantastic job in there. So Enzo Berenguer, keep an eye out for the youngster from Valencia. And then going across the league on Ekaluche. I've kept a real close eye on this kid from Monaco. 6 goals and 10 assists, 7.24 match rating, 50% dribble success rate, 50% duels won this season, 2 tackles per game, wins possession in the final third more than 1 time per game as well. So his pressing is unbelievable, and the 1.6 key passes per game. Monaco have been good this season. I've been really impressed with them. So that's younger, so it's had a lot of rotation, a lot of key injuries at key points of the season. He's been a superstar. Again, maybe not next year, maybe year following will be his big move year. But I tell you what, if you're a big club, you've got to keep an eye out for this player because PSG will be in for him and they'll swoop him up before you can even notice. A dynamic in the final third, a work rate player, but has end product to his game. 10 assists for a player of his young age with the delivery he can get to in the area and for his size as well. It is the modern footballer, it feels like, that sort of longer, stronger, taller player, but with the ball at their feet, a bit of a wizard. Jamal Musiala really comes to mind for me here. Again, not that same sort of passing and dribbling level, probably to the dribbling level. Passing-wise, you probably can see it in Ekaluche. But I tell you what, it's that size that's so tempting because you can play him so many different positions, out wide right, down the middle for me, in behind a striker, or just operating just off a striker as well. In the final third, a real difference maker. As I said, he wins the ball back in the final third more than once per game, so he can press for you, he can win that ball back. And for me, work rate in this modern game is so important. So Magnez Ekaluche, boy, super player for Monaco. Another one they've unearthed there. So that's my key players. Dean Huijsen, to keep an eye out for next season. 5 players who I think deserve a big move. Dean Huijsen, Jonathan Burkhardt, Assane Diao, Enzo Barranquilla, and Magnez Ekaluche. 1 from each league. I think 3 or 4 of them probably make a move to a bigger club or leave their current clubs at the end of this season because they're all real dangerous players. A lot of them attacking players, but also Dean Huijsen and Enzo Barranquilla are probably the most important in terms of sides, their defensive setup, their solidity, and playing down the middle. Your core of your football side is so important to get fixed early, and a young player that can be there for a long time is super beneficial to that. So keep an eye out for some of those players there. We'll jump to the Bundesliga quickly, and what a game we'll gift it to. A real Bundesliga classic between Union and Stuttgart on the weekend. A 4-4 first half blast in many regards there. Ilic opening the scoring in the 5th minute, getting onto one of those second balls into the box to make it 1-0 within 5 minutes. It was then 2-0 as Diego Leitz at the back post for Union scored off another second ball, a Trimmel set piece headed on by Kerfeld, and Diego Leitz headed home unmarked to the back post in the 19th minute to make it 2-0. However, Stuttgart would not be held down. A 23rd minute Undav goal set up by a fantastic run and pass in behind by Maximilian Mittelstadt pulled a goal back for Stuttgart to take away a bit of the pressure on the side because they've been struggling in terms of recent weeks, and this was a massive game for them to try and take on an infirm Union side. Enzo the Mio pulled out one of the most fantastic finishes to make it 2-2. Got away from Diego Alete, challenge, and then picked out the far corner with a superb curling left-footed effort to find the top corner. And it was just that sort of game because Kerfeld said, "Hold my beer" in the 38th minute and sawed a ball from around 30 yards out into the back net for Union to make it 3-2 just before that 40th minute mark. Stiller should have made it 3-3 the 42nd minute. However, it would be Chabot who'd make it 3-3 in the 43rd minute. Stiller's free kick was glanced on by the centre half to make it 3-3. And then somehow from being 2-0 down, they were up 4-3. Stuttgart as Furic found the back of the net at the 46th minute. Undav winning the ball on the halfway line, playing the ball into Furic, who sat his defender home and found the back of the net. And then the 6 minute stoppage time, the crazy first half would continue as Ilic scored his second, getting on the end of a Trimmel set piece whipped in towards the area. There was a few chances in the second half, but really nothing near that crazy first half. A real, I guess, advertising for the Bundesliga. That's the type of football we're going to get there in the Bundesliga, attacking football. Good to see Stuttgart at their goal-scoring best. Undav back, Enzo Mio back. That's a great sign for them, back conceding way too many goals. And a real, I guess, theme of their season. Good in patches, but not good enough on the season. That's why they're sitting in 10th this year. Stuttgart 78% possession, but only credited the 0.94 XG with the 2 big chances versus Union 22% possession, 1.33 XG, and the 5 big chance created. That's the real difference. Union doing more with their possession and making the most of it versus Stuttgart. Very tough to side. Not much incision come the second half, most importantly, and slow starts to the game in particular. For Union, though, the turnaround has been fantastic under the new manager. 6 games unbeaten, already beaten last season's points total in what was a very poor season for them last year. They were in and around the relegation zone come the appointment of the new manager, but the turnaround has been there to see. 8 goals in the last 5 games, obviously 4 come in this game here, so 4 in the last 4. Defensive solidity has normally been their key and their calling card, but not in this game here versus Stuttgart. where Stuttgart 12 goals in the last 5 games, but struggling for results. So both sides contrasting form. Stuttgart struggling for consistent wins. Union finding that unbeaten run, finding that belief, and making home ground in a fortress yet again. So I'm excited to see what they can do next season. Illich and Holler back as a front two have been fantastic. You saw with some of the balls into the area from Trimble, the importance of him re-signing as well. They've got a bit of a side there, and the commentator said it's important they find those identity players back at Union Berlin. They signed a lot of different players last season to try and compete for Champions League football. It didn't go well. It all fell apart for them last year. They almost got relegated in the relegation zone that started this season. But what they did, they found the right players and they found the manager to reinstill belief, that confidence in the side, the work rate and the intensity which those fans and this club was brought up on, and that's why they're back. Winning games of football, being unbeaten and competing amongst some of Europeans' best and the Bundesliga's best in Stuttgart here as well. So a real entertaining game. No real sides a loser in this one here. They're both sitting mid-table-ish, so they'll both be glad on Easter Sunday to pick up a point in what was a crazy game, that 4-4 draw there. Staying in the Bundesliga, going across to Dortmund, the battle of the Borussias in this game here. Dortmund getting a massive 3-2 win over Borussia Mönchengladbach. Interesting game that had, I guess, ebbs and flows in any regard here, but it was a first half fantastic finish from Borussia Dortmund, which basically won in this game here. It was Itakura, who opened the score in the 24th minute. Solo run, skipping past Adeyemi, getting his pass 1-2 off Ben Sebaini in the end, and finding the back of the net in the 24th minute in what was a very quiet opening half an hour. However, it was finally Borussia Dortmund finding the back of the net in the 41st minute. Serhou Guirassy finding the back of the net. Fantastic run once again, and ball from Pascal Gross on the right-hand side to put on a plate for Serhou Guirassy, and the first time finish was top tier from the man in form right now. Felix Metscher then finally got back on the score sheet again. It's been a long time for him, but he made it 2-1 in the 44th minute. Again, a ball coming in from the right-hand side, Jan Kyuto. Little touch of Karim Adeyemi finding its way to Felix Metscher, making a late run into the box, and he found the back of the net. All built up from Kani Chukwuemeka's pressing, who came off Maximilian Bayer in the opening half. An injury there, but Chukwuemeka would be massive in this game for Borussia Dortmund. So in the end, a real dangerous threat to come off the bench. Sturger had a massive chance in the first minute of stoppage time, however, put his effort straight at Kobel in the end, which was a quiet first half outside of the goal from Itakura for Borussia Mönchengladbach. Then they would become the worst enemy right at the end of the stoppages, the 4th minute stoppages. They gave the ball away high up the pitch. Svensson, in the end, looped his header over the keeper after Serhou Guirassy's shot was parried straight into his path. It was 3-1 going into half-time. Tim Kleidings was deemed to be fouled by VAR by Metscher. The penalty was converted by Stoger in the 56th minute. And outside of that, a few back-and-forth chances. Chukwuemeka created a shooting chance for Kyuto. Reyes had a chance on goal. Julian Brown had a plethora of chances which he bottled. And Kleidings and Player had chances blocked or cleared off the line later on in this game. But all in all, well managed in the end by Borussia Dortmund. The 3-2 win for them means it's 3 wins in the last 4 games for the side. 5 wins, 1 draw and 2 losses in the last 8 Bundesliga games, showing the turnaround. And once again, they're back amongst the European contention spots. Looking at the table, you can see it. They are battling once again. They're closer in touching distance. And I guess it's just a sign you just can't keep a good side down. And I guess it's also a sign the manager change should never have happened in the end of last season for me, because the talent there, the signings weren't performing. Now all of a sudden they are. They're sitting in 7th, Dortmund. Mainz having a real rough run of it right now. No win in their last 5. Freiburg's last 2 wins on the bounce help them keep afloat of Dortmund. But Dortmund in 7th place. Only 4 sides get Champions League football next season from the Bundesliga. They're 4 points back of RB Leipzig. 3 points behind Freiburg in 5th for Europa League, and 2 points behind Mainz, who are in out of form right now in 6th place. The belief is there once again for Dortmund, and the football's there to match it. A much greater intensity, much more control of games. This game here, Kani Chukwuemeka, for me, was probably player of the game. Won't get the plaudits, but did a great job in terms of the energy with him out the football. 7.4 match rating, 43 touches, 3 key passes, 5 out of 6 aerial duels won. Most importantly, 2 tackles, both leading to chances in the final third due to his pressing, one of the directly leading to a goal. Pascal Gross had his fingerprints all over this game. Look at the Pascal Gross of what we thought we'd see at Borussia Dortmund this season. The free license to roam around, to pick the ball up in different spots, operate in the final third when your side have the opposition pinned back in. Assist in this game here, 71 touches, 3 key passes, 80% pass accuracy, 2 clearances and a block. And obviously Sergio Garassi, 7.6 match rating, 2 out of 2 with long ball, 6 out of 10 aerial duels, 1, and the goal for him in this game here. I'm glad I'm seeing what I expected more from Borussia Dortmund. Made a lot of signings in the summer. Maximilian Bayer comes into the side. Anton Garassi. You thought, this side now is set. You went to the Champions League final. You were a bit of Real Madrid Champions League magic away from winning that trophy there. Sacked the manager. Hummels goes. And the identity goes. The defensive IQ went as well. And I guess injuries haven't helped in this season, even illness in key games as well. But what we're going to see across the last few games is work rate, one. I think it's a common trend of this video. Signs you work with him out the football. But most importantly, connectiveness on the pitch. And it stems back to that defensive solidity. They're keeping more clean sheets. Anton's finding his form. We've got Niklas Süle being that physical presence but driving the side forward. Gets the ball and takes the game on. Dribbles into the opposition half. Players like Felix Metscher growing into their role. Again, I'm not a real big fan of him, but winning the ball back, driving into spaces, operating in a half space at times as well, being that late runner into the box for the goal in this game here. Kani Chukwuemeka, whenever he seems to touch the pitch right now for Borussia Dortmund, looks like a threat, pressing up the pitch. And I think the theme of the difference, Pascal Gross. Boy, is he growing into this side here, playing more traditionally down the middle, can help out wide, can drift out wide right, like he has done at right back and right midfield this season, but operating in the middle, alongside a Metscher, with Julian Brandt, with Karim Adeyemi. And what we're seeing, Sergio Garassi's bailed them out so many times this season. It's less hero ball to Sergio Garassi. It's more team football, team build-up play, penning sides in. Yes, they still conceded 2 in this game here, but they were much better in terms of limiting the chances which Gladbach got in this game here. They were much more competitive defensively. They worked super hard in this game here, and it shows. I think it's pretty clear that what they've fixed up is their attitude, their work rate, their defensive commitment to defend as a group. And you can see the difference it makes. The Bundesliga is not a defensively oriented league. It's a league oriented around counter-pressing, counter-attacking, and speed of ball movement and speed of counter-attacks. That was their Achilles heel, and that's why they were being hurt. What they've done, Niklas Süle comes in. Anton refines that confidence. You've got Gregor Kobel in fantastic form. They've gone to a back 3. He allows Ryerson and to push on higher up the pitch. Svensson as well. 2 great wing-backs who can commit up the pitch, keep that width for the side. Pascal Gross then has a more license to push on. And all of a sudden, by fixing your defensive frailties, it allows your attacking football to become more coherent. You get more time on the football because you're winning the ball back quicker. And their tackle or ball winning rate, to win the ball back quicker, is through the roof. It's back to what we expected from Borussia Dortmund. Once they lose it, they're winning it back much quicker. I think their turnaround was 5 seconds quicker than how they started their season off. So it's that relentlessness in midfield. Pascal Gross can bring that. Again, he's not the most defensively oriented player, but alongside a Metscher, with Benzabaini and Süle and Anton, Schlotterbeck to come back. The defensive identity, the relentlessness in midfield, it's all building to a much more coherent and complete Dortmund side. And because I didn't drift too far away and they were competitive in some games, especially at home, they're still in the hunt now for Champions League football, which by no means they deserve in their performances this season, but they might get because of their ability to turn it around late. Thank God they sacked the manager, I think, in many regards. It was needed. They sacked him. New man comes in, and he's doing a very, very good job. And it's good to see Dortmund back because I said it last week, it's just not right not seeing Dortmund compete at the top. I'm still waiting for that big 3 to compete. Leverkusen now is in that big 3. Leverkusen, Munich, Dortmund next season competing for the title. Get me there for that. And if a team like Frankfurt can add some more depth with the money they got from Omar Marmoush, well, I'm here for a 4-horse race because it looks like the Bundesliga could be split wide open. As much as Bayern have been dominant this season, they still have weaknesses there. They still lose some poor games. They still drop a lot of key points. And what we're seeing from Dortmund in around the last month and a half to 2 months is competitiveness. And that's what we needed to see for them. They were so poor away from home. They lost their head a lot. They weren't that same attacking side. And what we've seen in recent times, It's all been built off defensive solidity. Like I say, for a lot of teams, you fix up defensively, a lot of good things happen from there on in. It's been a sign for sore eyes in many regards, seeing Dortmund back to their best this season. All right, finishing off in the Serie A, 2-1-0 to talk about. It's not more much, I guess, of the game, play-by-play talk, but more of the impact of these games here. Atalanta, massive win at the San Siro on the weekend. A superb team goal in the end. So Ederson opening the scoring in the 62nd minute, going in transition like Atalanta do so well. Pasalic found Lookman, who got the ball towards the back post to Bellanova, headed the ball back into the area. Ederson flung himself out, full stretch to head that ball home in the 62nd minute. One swift play for Atalanta to beat Milan. Milan, again, far from their bench. Jovic had a massive chance. Tijani Rangers took on a long shot later on in the game, but really nothing of note for them in this game here. And that's really just been the theme. I guess the big talking point for them is, looks like Conte Sao is on his way out. Ibrahimovic might be relieved of his duties as that advisor. So a lot of moving pieces next season for a Milan side who, boy, they're nowhere near it. And if I'm a player, I don't really want to go to Milan. I want to join the other dressing room in Inter Milan because they're a team, they're coherent, they work as a unit. AC right now, I don't know. I really don't know. So the manager's leaving. That's one. Now it's time to find a new manager and a philosophy. Thiago Motza's available. That could be a slam dunk move. Or do you go for the jugular and get Carlo Ancelotti in to try and fix this side up, get them back to their best? Because they're so far from it. But there's pieces there. Rafa Leao, Tijani Reinders, Teo Hernandez, Mike Magnon. They've gone to the back three. Yes, it's helped in terms of keeping more clean sheets, but they're still not a really competitive side. And by going to a back three, having 5 defenders, the attacking football has just gone by the wayside. I think there's so many options like Jovic, Abraham, all these, like Pavlovic's been a great find this season. It would have been a very disappointing season, but you've got to find the 11 players that you're going to take to start games of football and be competitive. It feels like a lot of rotation, and outside of Reinders and outside of Rafa Leao, no one's a real pen them in this team. Everyone's penciled in the moment, easy erased, easy can be changed on this side. I want to see consistent 11 players wanting that starting 11 spot. I want to see players willing to put their body on the line, be committed, look like they care. These players don't look like they care right now. And this Atalanta performance, far from vintage Atalanta, but they didn't have to do too much to beat this Milan side, and that's just a sign of the times of where Milan are. Not competitive, really uninspiring, I think it's the key word for them. And I really do worry for this side here going forward because they're going in a real dark direction. Manchester United, top heights for this from this season, I can see that happening to them. Union Berlin, not to that extent, but where their team was competing at the top 4, dropping all the way down to that sort of bottom half level. It's a real fine line between being good consistently and then taking a few wrong steps and then being a real mid-table bottom half side. With how competitive modern football is, the scouting in modern football, how teams have great managers that might not possibly be the big names, the gap becomes so small from the top to the bottom. We've seen it in the Premier League this season. I think we're seeing it much more in Serie A, and we're definitely seeing it starting to happen in the Bundesliga where teams are being more competitive. La Liga, not quite there yet, but these other leagues, I think Serie A is probably the second closest in terms of the top and the bottom. They get narrower and narrower. We're seeing Bologna become a staple top side. So we're seeing Roma and Lazio finishing 8th, 9th. You know, I think Milan, bottom half at times of the season. You string a few good results together, you springboard back up. But consistency is so hard to find in these leagues because of how competitive it is. Como under Fabregas, they have been superb this season. Small budget, limited small team, performing on the big stage. So Milan have to be careful. Yes, I've made it really dramatic talking about some smaller clubs, but this is AC Milan. It's a massive club that's nowhere near it. They've got to clear it out come the summer. Pick the players that want to be there, pick the players that want to work hard, and pick a manager that's going to have a system that you're going to ride out for 3 or 4 years and see how it goes. Because right now for Milan, it's going to be about time. How long can you back a manager in and his system to get his players in to drive the side forward? Because your blueprint and what you should do is in the corridor next door. Inter Milan got Inzaghi in. They backed his style. They made the smart transfers of Kalinoglu, Arnautovic, Bisek, Augusto, cheap signings, but that matched the system. The likes of Thuram as well, Mehdi Taremi. The names go on and on and on. Like, there were players that almost were rejects of other teams or not quite good enough for other teams that they said, this is perfect for our team. And they made smart signing, cheaper signings so they can build the side. You know, Bastoni, Jan Sommer's a prime example. Not wanted by Bayern, shipped aside, probably one of the best, if not the best keeper in Serie A, and is one of the best keepers of all football. They got him for nothing. Onana goes out for 50 million. What a replacement in summer. You can do the same thing with Mike Maignan. Find the right man for the job you can get for 10 million. You probably make a 30 million pound profit in that transfer there. If Pulisic isn't the one to go forward with, off the back of a great season, sell him for 45, 50 million and get a younger player in, Dominguez from Bologna, that could do a job for you. So I think for them, your blueprints in the corridor next door. Use what Inter Milan have done. Find the manager first and then let him and I guess the behind-the-scenes staff work about finding the smart signings for cheap that you can build a squad around. A lot of players that are in your style of football are perfect. Not one or two expensive players that can be heroes. Less hero ball, more team football. Theme of this week's podcast was like, team football wins football games, and that's why Atalanta got the win this game here. Again, far from their vintage performance, but two back-to-back very important wins for Gasperini's side. It means Champions League football is well and truly alive. I'll tell you what also is alive is a Serie A title race. Bologna did Napoli a massive favour in their 1-0 win over Inter Milan. A game which was sort of a set-piece fest in the first half. Lautaro had a first early chance in the 3rd minute. They played quick from a free kick, chip ball from Lautaro. Tried to get over the top of Ravaglia in goal, but made the important save. It was then Carlos Augusto with a bullet header from the resulting corner, but he put it past the near post. Dan Ndoye came close to a terrific opening goal in the 17th minute. He held off Augusto's challenge, turned and put a shot that skimmed just wide of the post. Dalinga then had the ball almost in the back of the net after Dan Ndoye made another great run, but somehow Pavard got his leg in the way to block the ball wide. After, once again, Bologna pressed hard up the pitch and caused Inter Milan all sorts of problems in this game here. Bastoni came close to another Inter Milan corner in the 34th minute, slooped over the crossbar there. Then in the second half, Dominguez couldn't curl his effort enough as he played in from a short free kick just for the hour mark. Italiano was sent off in the 56th minute for a touchline debate in what was Serie A bingo. You definitely have to have the manager getting sent off because there's so much chaos on that touchline there. Cambiaghi had a few key chances, including being at the back post in the 86th minute, but his header, the contact was very poor, didn't get on target. And then Orsolini, the hero, with a scorpion, bicycle kick, whatever you want to call it, got in the end of a Bisek, flicked header in, came from that long throw into the area. Bisek flicks the header on, Orsolini off the bench. Fantastic finish, acrobatic. The Rosso Blue faithful went absolutely mental. Orsolini's shirt comes off, runs to the crowd, and there's a reason why they call him Orsonaldo, because he remixed Cristiano Ronaldo yet again here with the clutch time finish in this game. He played 20 minutes, scored the all-important goal, 9 touches, but one of them was the most important touch of them all, winning out of two of his duels. Calhanoglu was the star for for Inter Milan, however, 7.7 match rating, 6 key passes, 5 out of 7 accurate crosses, 2 interceptions, 3 out of 3 aerial duels, 1. It was a real tight battle. 48% possession for Bologna, 52 for Inter, 0.82 XG for Bologna, 0.62 for Inter Milan, 3 big chances for Bologna, none for Inter Milan, 12 shots for Bologna, 8 versus Inter. So really nothing separate these two sides here. It was the counter-pressing energy of Bologna versus the set pieces of Inter Milan. That was really the game. And the commentator mentioned it, Inter are fighting on many fronts. They're just beaten Bayern in the Champions League. They've got a massive second leg versus their, arch nemesis this season and their Achilles heel in AC Milan in the Coppa Italia. So, look, they're competing for a treble. Tough work. And the commentator said it. You could have afforded a draw in the second leg versus Bayern. They took that. You could have afforded a draw in the first leg of the Coppa Italia to AC. You got that. You can only afford one draw in the league, and they've given it up here to Bologna. A very good Bologna side that are also competing for Champions League football. But from now on in, with 5 games to go in the league, with potentially 3 in the Champions League and potentially 2 in the Coppa Italia, you have to be perfect. And I'll bring it up. If run at Napoli and Inter, same points, goal difference, means nothing in Serie A. They end the season with the same amount of points, we're going to a playoff or like a final. to decide who wins the title. So Serie A, round of applause, because I will be here for that. We will be here. I will get a couch full of people to watch Napoli-Inter, because Napoli versus Monza, they got the 1-0 win, an important win now. You look back at this result here, they lose Inter Milan to Bologna, but fair play. Inter look like they are tiring a bit. Big injuries to players, missing key moment. Thuram doesn't play this game. Taremi comes off the bench, has a half moment, which was speculative in the end, and that didn't work out. Lautaro wasn't at his fittest and finest in this game here. It felt like a game for them that if they're going to win, it would be like a Bastoni or a Serbi header. They weren't that creative in the final third. They lacked that energy and intensity. That's just down to games. They've already played over, I think, 55 games this season. They play a lot of games. Club World Cup to come up as well. And obviously around 10 more games. They want to go deep in every single competition and win the lot. So there is going to be tiring legs. But now for Inter Milan, it's all about being perfect. Get your head down. You're going to get between 4 to 5 days rest on average between every game. It's about turning it around and keep churning out results. This is one of the more tougher games to end the season off. But Napoli have a pretty easy run in as well. So you're now on level playing field. It's about this winning team. I talk so much about them. I rave about them. Can they hold their nerve? Can they hold their bottle? It's a deep squad, but the squad is being tested. Like Fratesi, even Zielinski coming back from injury are going to be so important this side here. The likes of Thuram getting back and healthy and fit, so important. Correa contributing goals, whether it be from the start or on the bench. Arnautovic as well off the bench. He's been so important in February and March. Can he be important again come April and May? And then it's about that backline staying healthy. Bastoni, Acerbi, Dumfries coming back, and also DeMarco staying fit. They've been in and out that backline. You can tell there's a little bit of lack of continuity. And the goal came out of nothing, let's be honest. Or the Orsolini goal was fantastic, superb, out of this world. But another that doesn't go in. You get the 0-0, you get a point, you keep that point differential. But all work now cut out for this Inter Milan side. They've probably been the best side all season, the most consistent side all season. They've had their lulls, but all like keep bouncing back. I think they'll have to bounce back yet again here. Massive games to come up against AC in the Copa. And then, boy, they got a massive game versus Barcelona in the semi-final of the Champions League. But I back this side in. I back Inzaghi in. They've got the talent. They've got the mind up there as well. They've got the work rate. They've got the defensive solidity, most important. They can shut down AC. They can shut down Barcelona. It's about how much legs they have to go forward and keep driving forward relentlessly to put pressure on sides. That's the real question about them. And then Bologna, what's the result? It propels them up into fourth. Juventus obviously didn't play due to the death of the Pope, so they've got that game in hand there. But right now they sit in fourth place, and I always say it, and I'll continue to say it, in a run-in, it's always best to play first because you get the result, pressure all of a sudden jumps onto the other side there. Do Juventus have the bottle to keep up with Bologna? Bologna have some absolutely massive games to come. It doesn't stop for them. Huge games the next few weeks. We keep saying it, but it's no easy running for them to come the end of the season here. But they've done a hard work here. They bounced back in a game I didn't think they would bounce back after that really disappointing performance versus Atalanta. They get back on track. A point clear of Juventus, 3 points clear of Roma. Obviously, Juventus have the game in hand. More importantly, 4 points back of Atalanta. They keep the gap to only 4 points. And we know Atalanta, yes, they've played probably more of their tougher games, but they can slip up and more opportunity to get into that top group. And it's a shame only 4 teams will qualify this season from the Serie A into the Champions League, because if Atalanta, Juventus, or one of Bologna miss out, it just feels wrong. Inter have Roma next time out. Massive game on Sunday. Huge game that actually might end up live streaming that one there. It's going to be a massive game for them. Whereas we look at Bologna got away to Udinese, so one of their weaker games. They then back that one up following that. Away to Milan, which is a huge game. Their penultimate game. They then away to Fiorentina and end the season off with Genoa. So that AC Milan-Fiorentina mini run outside of these easier games is so important for them to at least get 4 or 3 points in that time there to keep the pressure on Juve. Maybe Atalanta slip up in some of their games, but it's a great sign. And what's a game for Bologna? Absolutely deserved. I love this club. Actually, I love both these clubs. They're probably the better of my 2 favourite clubs. One of the 2 favourite clubs in world football. They play such attractive football. And once again, though, Orsolini on the bench. Italiano benching him this game. It wasn't his best game versus Atalanta, but once again proving himself to be the superstar for this Bologna side. a lot of credits to go to him this season. 17 goals, some of which come off the bench, some of them come really late in games, saving this side once more. Dan Ndoye was superb in this game here. Good to see Odegaard back in the number 10. They've got, obviously, Castro coming back from injury. Dominguez, the youngster, showed his talent as well. There's a lot of talent in this Bologna side, but not the same sort of talent like Zertsky, like Motta in the end, and like Calafiori that will be taken away from the side. Ferguson comes back fit, hopefully for the full season next year. You've got a real dangerous, talented side. That's why I really want them in Champions League football. We saw them in the last 3 games, super competitive, back-to-back wins on the final 2 games of the Champions League phase. They left their run too late, but they know what it's like now to be in the Champions League. The Deladas, a fantastic side. It has so much intensity and energy around it. I'd love to see them there again next season because, to be honest, I don't reckon you deserve it. I think that this Bologna side deserve it. They rode out a tough run, didn't get a win until like the 10th game of the season, but since then, so hard to beat. I think only 4 losses in the season, which puts them up there, some of the best in the league in terms of losses. Fantastic game for them. A mammoth moment in the 93rd minute from that man again, Orsolini. Also Ronaldo for a reason, which Napoli will be thanking them, keeping that title race alive in Serie A. As I said, level, which means if it stays that way, we go to a playoff or final game of the Serie A to decide who wins the title, which would be absolutely crazy with that being said. There we go, ladies and gents. Another week done here on the Away Day Show, another midweek podcast. Thank you for dealing with my voice and my voice only. I promise you one of the last times you hear this season. Nathan should be back next week. We'll be back at it again. And we'll start doing our team of the seasons because we're into the end game now in many regards. Leagues with 3, 4, 5 games left altogether. So we'll start doing our team of the seasons and we'll finish the right wing list and the strikers list for our top 10s on the year. If you enjoy the video, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, 5 stars on Spotify. And with that being said, ladies and gents, I'll see you guys at the podcast or prediction video or reaction video or something like that very, very soon. So next time, guys, see you later.